I'm gonna say something that might sound crazy. Connecting Obsidian to your Claude Desktop, which should be your architect, and connecting it as well with Hermes Agent, which should be your engineer, it's going to be the highest leverage move you can do as far as integrating something into your workflow right now. This is something crazy. You have to do this because it's really going to change how you work. Here's the problem. Problem is that when you are using Claude Desktop and when you're using any of the AI tools that are available today, you're going to find yourself that Claude Desktop remembers some things. You're going to find that Hermes Agent remembers some things, but nobody's in the same page. However, when you have something like this, oof, we're all on the same page. We know where everything is coming from. We know where the logs are connected to. We know how the index is connected to. We know how the hero section is connected to. I'm presenting to you the graph view and the memory of a project that I've been building that is related to a website/directory. So we have map views included. We have our index, of course. We have the hero section. We have a schema for things that are related over here. We have the bottom navigation bar. We have the top bar navigation. We have the actual main layout. And we have all of this connected in a way so that when you're working with Claude Desktop and when you're working with Hermes Agent or whatever type of workflow you have, when you have different parts, different tools working together or trying to work together, this is the best thing you can do. Add Obsidian into your workflow. I've made a video about this. Let's get into it right away. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing it from scratch. As you can see in my screen, I have Claude Desktop on my right hand side. I have my Telegram on my left hand side. Telegram is connected with Hermes Agent and it's using one of my models from a local machine that I have. It's using Qwen 3.6, the MTP version, which is actually pretty good. So we're starting this from scratch. I don't know how long the video is going to take. You already know how long the video is because you already saw it before you're clicking, and we're just gonna get right to it, okay? I'm starting from scratch. I'm gonna send a message to Claude to begin with. Okay, I have been hearing a lot about Obsidian and their graph view. We have been building this project and there is such a thing. So here's the problem. I'm building with Hermes Agent as my engineer, Claude Desktop as my architect. I, in this picture, will be the orchestrator. But every time we close Claude or every time we get back with Hermes Agent, it has to go through conversations and they have to go through context and they have to try to figure out how to remember, where to remember from and everything. So our idea is to connect Obsidian and make sure that we don't have to do that every time, and it has an easier way to connect the dots to make sure that we're always on point and in the same page. I'm sending a message to Claude Desktop right now. I've been hearing a lot about Obsidian and their graph view. We have been building this project and I would like to implement Obsidian into our workflow so we can improve our process and be more in the same page. As you know, you are my architect. We have Hermes Agent using my bot, which is Pixel, with its model as the engineer, and I'm here orchestrating. Before we start implementing anything into our workflow, what do you think? How should we plan this out? What do we need to do here? So obviously I have an idea of what we need to do and what is going to happen, but I want to give Claude really total freedom as to how he thinks about it and how he wants to come up with a solution. So I don't like to implement my ideas into it. I let it do its thing. So Obsidian is a local markdown knowledge base with a graph view that maps connections between nodes. The graph view is what makes it interesting for a project like this. You can see how features, decisions, and bugs and components relate to each other visually. Here's how I think about applying this. What Obsidian would actually give you. Right now, the project knowledge lives in 3 places: your memory, my memory summaries, and the handoff doc at the start of this session. The problem is that none of these are queryable, linkable, or visual. When you start a new session, you have to repaste context. When a bug gets fixed, there's no permanent record of the root cause tied to the component it affected. Obsidian fixes that by being a persistent structure searchable vault that lives on your machine. How I mapped it to the 3 rows. The vault will have a few node types: architecture decision records, 1 node per significant decision linking to component it touches, component nodes, 1 per major file or system, map view, profile, setup model, blah, 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 describing what it does, its known bugs and its history phase notes, one per future phase, linking to the components change and the decisions made, a single living Reconnect context. Reconnect is the name of the app that you paste at the start of each Claude session instead of re-uploading the handoff doc. Some of the things that we have to do every time is that once we fill up this chat with Claude Desktop, it gets to a point that we have to do a handoff so we can start everything on a new chat. So I guess what it's saying here is that instead of having to do that every time, we could just really implementing Obsidian. We don't have to do a handoff summary, and we would just really be able to do it with Obsidian. The graph view then shows you things like profile setup, connects, model connects with the authentication process. So where does the vault live on your Windows? Where does the code live? Is it Windows? Who writes it? Just you? Do I generate the pattern? Do you want the vault inside repo or separate? Keeping docs vault folder inside means that nodes have version control alongside the code, which is clean. Separate means it can span multiple projects. What's your answer to these three? Once I know where it lives and who writes it, it can design. So I have a directory for the folder itself that we're working on the project. So as you know, Pixel is building this project. I think it might be best to keep all Obsidian records pertaining to this project under the same directory. You have access to the directory yourself, but you could see it and update it, I would assume. And obviously Pixel as the engineer implementator will be mainly the one using it at all. So just a little note letting it know where is the actual file, which he knows already. I'm just like really getting on the same page 100%. I think, because I want to tell it exactly what to do, even though I do have a way in my head of how I really want it, but I do want to give it the freedom so that way I get the best suggestions. And obviously it can find way better documentation than I can, so it would give me better options. Even if I think I know what the best idea is, I would still like to make sure that it gives me the option so that way I know what's the best. Why the repo is the right home. It gets committed alongside code changes. So every commit, so it says that it's good like that. How the three roles would actually use him. My roles as architect after diagnosing a bug, produce a short markdown note as part of my output and instruct Pixel to write it in the vault as the last step on every task. Since Pixel is already touching files, Pixel's role engineer writes the notes. Your role orchestrator, the vault becomes your session starter. Instead of pasting handoff doc, you open the relevant notes and paste what's needed. Over time, the vault replaces the handoff. What I suggest we build first, small starter vault with 4 node types that cover everything we've done so far on Reconnect before I have Pixel scaffolded out. Let me check what's already in the directory. So good, no docs folder yet, clean slate. Here's my full vision. In the vault folder, what it would do is that it will create a reconnect.md file. It will have the master index. It's what it replaces the handoff conversations. It will document the architecture. It will document the components of the page itself, one per major component, decisions that we make through our development process, projection for map PIMs, runtime uses, and then phases. The phases and how we're implementing it. Each node uses Obsidian wiki links to link to related nodes. So the graph view actually shows you the web connections, for example, profile setup model.md, links, auth flow, database schema. You can see it at a glance. Touching the model affects 3 other systems, the workflow going forward. Every Pixel CEO prompt will include a vault update, blah, blah, blah. Want me to have Pixel scaffold? So yes. So this is where, my experience kind of comes into play also as well here. I could easily just say, okay, yes, let's do this. Let's generate the prompt and let's go ahead and move forward with the scaffolding of this part of the file. But what I would really love is for actually Hermes to really have the skill of understanding absolutely anything and everything about Obsidian. So that way, when it actually starts doing the scaffolding and when it starts doing all of these things that it's going to do for the project, it has the whole knowledge base of absolutely anything and everything that we could ever take advantage of from Obsidian and how to use Obsidian and everything. If I just do it like that, it might have to start doing some research. It might just do it out of nowhere, and then it will just add, just following literally the instructions that we put to it, which are good instructions. But imagine if we have these amazing instructions and we also have Hermes Agent being an expert at Obsidian already. That's a double whammy right there. That will really get us to a point where it would just be the best at both worlds. We will have the best instructions and it will really understand those instructions to the T. And then at the same time, it will already be an expert at Obsidian because he has the skill to do it. And it combines the instructions and it puts everything even more on point. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm gonna do is this. This is what I'm gonna tell Claude. I love this idea and setup. Now I'm thinking that for Hermes to implement this in the best way possible, and we continue to be extremely on the same page, it would be a good idea for us to have Pixel. I call it Pixel because it's just the name of the bot and it understands that that's Hermes at that point. So to learn absolutely everything we can about Obsidian and set up a skill so that when we end up doing the scaffold, it is notes, all secrets, best habits. And then at the end, I just say, what do you think? I know it's the best idea and it's definitely the way that we're going to implement it no matter what he says. I'm just going to put it at the end. What do you think? Because I want it to express itself in that way, from that perspective. So a smart instinct before Pixel touches a single vol file, it should deeply understand Obsidian structure, linking model, from matter convention. See, I didn't have those words in my head before I even thought about like letting it know that I wanted it to learn that skill. So now it's really telling me and clarifying for me really what we wanted to make sure that we wanted to be part of the skill. So Obsidian structure, linking model, from matter conventions, and what makes a vault actually useful versus a pile of disconnected markdown. Let me check skills directory first to understand the format. So it's pretty much going through the process here of understanding all of the skills and what it has and what it doesn't have. Good, I now understand the exact format, depth, and style expected. This skill thorough. It covers the mental model, specific workflows, do, don't patterns, anti-patterns, and concrete examples. The Obsidian skill needs to match that depth. Let me research Obsidian properly before writing it. Excellent. Research. Now I have everything I need, including the critical insight from that Graph View article that the vault needs to be output oriented, not just beautiful. Let me also check the Hermes specific Obsidian skills, since that's Pixel's actual runtime. So this is gold. Hermes has a bundle Obsidian skill already. Look at that. That's awesome. So Hermes already has an Obsidian skill bundle. It's built and uses read file, write file, patch, and search files as the core tools. This changes the approach significantly. We don't need to build a Pixel skill from scratch. We need to build a Reconnect specific skill that sits on top of the bundle one, and it teaches our vault structure, conventions, and workflows. Now I have everything I need to write this properly. Let me write the skill directly into the project. Good. 295 lines, skill written. Now let me upload it directly to the server. So this is one thing I didn't like. I don't like so much that it did right there. It didn't let Hermes write its own skill. It wrote the skill for it. And it did it because most likely he found that it already had the skill. So he just really pretty much pushed, just like he said, something on top of the bundle skill that already existed. So the docs directory doesn't exist yet. Pixel will need to create it. The skill file is ready on my end. It's creating this amazing prompt and I really want to use it. Sometimes what happens is that Claude, as the architect, he's so smart and he wants to make sure he does a lot of the project most of the time. So he oversteps his architect role into the implementator role, and then it does this type of things. It implements the document itself and it starts really even writing for it. Like it literally wrote all of the things that should be part of every document, and that is not what we want. I don't want to stop it right now because I really like it already created the document inside. It already pushed it through. So because it already did that, I don't want to stop it at this point. What I am going to do is that I am going to let it finish, but at the end I'm gonna tell it exactly what I just told you, that this is not what you're supposed to do. So you kind of have overstep your role as the architect. I want you to make sure to come up prompts to pass over to Pixel so he can be the one to create. And then I like to use its own wording as well. So let me see the wording that he used. 295 skill. Now I have everything I need to. Let me write the skill directly to write the skill for, and then for Pixel to be the one to scaffold the project. based on our instructions and the structure we are telling it to implement. He's the one that will come up with the content. So at this point, I have not shared that previous prompt you just did, but since, excuse my typing, but you know, we're just fast typing at this point. Prompt you just did, but since you did already write the skill, what I would like to do at this point is have Pixel revise what you wrote as the skill inside the directory and to improve on it if necessary, and then tell it to report back once that's done, so we can then pass over a prompt so it starts actually doing the scaffold. Sometimes you just gotta pull AI back, and that's really what happens. You know, sometimes what's going on is that you're going through it and AI wants to figure it all out right away for you, and he wants to implement absolutely everything, and he wants to do it right away, and then you just have to pull it back. Because if you have a specific workflow and you want that workflow to be implemented the same way every time, and you don't want to have like missing steps or even something that might get skipped or forgotten or hallucinated in one way or another, then you're not going to have control over it. So we're trying to make sure that we keep some sort of control. Review and improve the Reconnect Obsidian Vault skill. So right here, we're just literally copying the message. Just by the title, I already know where we're coming from here. Is read the draft skill, research the Obsidian deeply, improve the skill, write the final skill file, you know, right here. And then also create a brief research.md that I'm just going to do there. And then just report back. That's going to happen right now. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to open up my local machine, which is in a completely different monitor that I cannot share with you. And I'm going to see, I like to keep an eye on how the model itself it's responding, as far as like how it's working specifically, in the sense of not what it's saying, because that's what we have here in Telegram. We're gonna start seeing the response, but here in my monitor, it's really how it's performing, what I'm seeing, how many tokens per second, how much of my memory is using in general, how much of the GPU is using, temperature of the GPU, and all of these things that we want to keep an eye on. Just like when you're driving and you're keeping an eye on like how much RPMs are you on, what's the actual speed that you're on, you know, so that way you make sure you keep your gas per mileage on point. The same thing we're doing here on the side. And these are tasks that are not like coding related. There's literally writing MD files. So I'm pretty sure it's not like super heavy on it in the sense of like being able to do it. So the draft was completed the draft was compacted out of context. I can recover from the session history. Let me check if it was saved to disk. Found it. Let me read the draft and also check reconnect. So at first didn't know where the file was. He found it. It's understanding it. No, it says it's an open Claude skill. That's not a draft. It's using the terminal. I did tell it exactly where it was though. Connect docs vault skill.md. Skill.md, it's a little bit of a general term. The bundle Obsidian skill, so it has it right here. The LLM wiki patterns and the Reconnect project. Let me do web research and then build both files. Content got a little bit too large, so it started compacting the context here. So context window got all the way to 46,000 tokens. So that's one of the things that I'm probably gonna do an edit on my side for my local LLM. I'm probably gonna increase the context window for this model specifically, so that way it has a little bit more, maybe to the 100 and something. So I think right now it has like 64,000. Okay, so now I have the full context. Let me create both files. The draft was compacted, blah, blah, blah. So I'll build the best skill I can. Use the bundle Hermes Obsidian skill conventions, LLM wiki patterns, which are excellent. The Obsidian best practices for product knowledge. Perfect. I can see it's using all the way from 100% to 97% of my GPU. So it's actually writing the file here, exactly where we want it to. Still working. One of the things that I like about Hermes Agent as well is that as it's doing a few things, it shows you certain folders that it's doing. It also shows you how many iterations it's been through. Okay, so we have a full message here. Both files are written and verified. Here's the summary. Skill.md, 342 lines with 2,000 words. So it definitely added some more. And then research went from 48 lines to with 1,400 words. Orientation before action. Every session must read schema, index, and recent log. Minimal but consistent from matter 6 required title, created, blah, blah. Reconnect-specific tag taxonomy, domains, Web3, Wiki link naming convention, strictly cases. Perfect. So we have a full scenario here of what he's setting up. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that message. I'm going to say that it was Pixel, and I'm going to paste it over here, and I'm just going to send it over to Claude Desktop. Now Claude is actually reading what it just set up. Good. The skill Pixel produces solid, better structure than my draft in several ways. That's why sometimes you have to pull it back. It thinks he knows what is best, and it's so crazy about wanting to implement for you, but you have to, as the orchestrator, you have to really know when is a good time for either Claude Desktop to implement or to build, and then when is a good time for Hermes to do so, and really who has what role, and make sure that they implement the role in the best way possible. Here are the 3 questions: Pixel race, answer, vault path is correct, keep it in the repo. Data view plugin, you'll need to install Obsidian when you open the vault on your Windows machine. Pixel doesn't need it. Pixel doesn't need it to scaffold. It's a read time feature. Initial content sitting. Yes, that's exactly what the scaffolding phase is. Pixel reads blah, blah, blah. One decision for you before you scaffold prompt Pixels. Folder structure, decisions, features, research, meetings, and bugs diverges from our original proposal: architecture, components, decisions, and phases. Pixels is more general purposes. Mine is more code project specific and maps directly to how we talked about the work. I recommend hybrid. Keep Pixel structure, but add components folder for component nodes, since those will be the most frequently referenced nodes in daily dev work. That gives decisions, features, components, bugs, research, and meetings. Do you want to go with that or keep Pixel structure as is? Once you decide, I'll write the scaffold prompt. Nothing like the best of both worlds. Like once you get something that is really showing you the best of both worlds, you get the best of both worlds, and that's what you're getting right here. And that's what I'm going to say. I like the hybrid option. I love the hybrid option. That's it. I don't really have to tell it much more than that. Good. Before writing the scaffold prompt, let me update the skill on the server to reflect the hybrid folder structure so Pixel is working from the correct spec. Good. I can see exactly what needs updating. The skill needs components added to the folder structure. I see it myself as well. Two tasks. Update skill file plus a scaffold vault. Context. Drew approved the hybrid folder structure. Add components to the skill. Then scaffold the full starter vault populated with real Reconnect project content. Task 1. Update the skill file. Make those 4 targeted edits, components, decisions, boom, ping, boom, bang. In data view query section, add components query alongside the others. Scaffold the full starter vault. This is why it's amazing to be able to talk to Hermes Agent here on Telegram and being able for you to just really talk to it, ask for the things that you want, and for Hermes to implement and everything. The reason why I use Claude as an architect is because when I just talk to Claude normally, just like I've been doing, and just literally sending these short messages and pretty much my ideas in one way or another, it comes up with the prompt that it's so much better than what I could have ever told Hermes to do. The instructions and the way that it sets it all up, this whole message right here, I would just not been able to do it. And even if I would have done it, it would have taken me forever to really just put this whole down in this structure specifically. Having Claude Desktop as the architect, it really helps you organize your ideas. It's very good at coming up with a prompt that you can just really throw into Hermes Agent and really keeping everybody in the same page, and obviously giving detailed instructions as far as to like everything that needs to be implemented. So this project is ongoing. This project has been built and it still has more things to go and more iterations to go through. But what we're doing right now is not related necessarily to the project development itself, but it's really just us installing Obsidian into the workflow, so that way it helps us maintain the same page in between everybody, in between Hermes, in between the architect, and then even myself. Soon enough here, we will get to the point that we'll actually be able to see the graph, and that's going to be the last thing we're going to see in the video. So stick around to make sure that you get to see how the whole graph actually looks like for this project specifically. I'm excited to see that, so let's keep doing this. So right now it's reading a lot of the files. It's obviously so much information that it continues to hit the context window limit, so it keeps summarizing. Nice. It looks like we got it done. So what's going on over here? So I went ahead and sent this prompt to Hermes Agent. I told it 2 tasks. update skills file and scaffold the vault. So what does that mean? It means that the skill that you have inside to create the vault itself, I need you to update it so that way you make sure it has everything that we need. And I want you to create the vault itself with all of the knowledge that we need to. And we went ahead and sent that prompt out. And after about 20 iterations or so, it obviously sent all of these messages out, and it was able to get task 1 and task 2 completed. I am able to confirm that as well here, as I have access to the actual directory, of course, and it looks good. Now I can go ahead as the human and check to see if everything was done properly, but that's why we have Claude as the architect. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that message. I'm gonna say that Pixel send it out, and Claude Desktop has access to that directory, and it's going to verify all of that for us right now. So right away, as soon as I send that out, he said, let me verify before we sign it off. He starts running some commands in the terminal, checking all these files. He's pretty much checking all of the files to make sure everything is good. And it says spot check one note for matter quality. Boom, everything checks out across all layers. Here's what's confirmed on disk: all 6 folders, root files, from matter, quality, verify, commit. Boom, the vault is live. The vault is live, ladies and gentlemen. To open it in Obsidian in your Windows machine, point Obsidian at the network path or clone the repo locally. Install the data view plugin once you open it to get the dashboard queries working. From this point forward, every Pixel CEO prompt I write will include a vault update as the final task, updating the relevant component or feature note and prepending a log entry. So pretty much it finished the installation of everything that's going on here. So I want to open this up. So for me to open this up on my Windows local machine, what is it that I need to do without having to clone the repo locally? This lets you browse your mini PC's files from the Windows Explorer, like network drive, Pixel, and blah, 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 blah. PC exposing, blah, blah. You then map it as a network drive, point Obsidian, every file, option 2, clone the repo locally. Windows. Samba, it's already installed. Which option do you prefer? Option A, Samba share recommended. I write a prompt to Pixel to add a share entry to tune, exposing home Pixel Reconnect, set a Samba password for the Pixel user and restart the service. You then map it as a drive in Windows and point Obsidian at it. Done once with the option A before we implement. Would that show me the graph? The graph view in Obsidian is purely visual rendering of the markdown files. Weak links, it doesn't care where files physically live, local drive, network share, it's all the same to Obsidian. As long as Obsidian can read and write the files, the graph works identically. So with option A, you'll get full graph view showing all 23 nodes in there and their wiki-link connections, live updates. The only thing that wouldn't work over the network share of Obsidian is sync service, but that's a paid cloud feature you wouldn't need anyway, since the files are already in your local network. Want me to write a Pixel prompt? Yes. Perfect. So now that we have the file set up and everything, we want to get that graph view so that way we can really see everything. Because I am working on a local machine, on an LLM that is not directly connected to my Windows machine, I always need to do a couple of extra things so that way we can have access to everything without actually sharing access. In a way, setting up Samba share for Obsidian Vault access from Windows. So it's gonna add share to this Reconnect folder that we have. Gonna share the whole folder. It's gonna set up a password. It's gonna restart the Samba service, verify that it's running. Gonna check the firewalls. We are putting our machine to work. We're at 85 degrees right now. Okay. Now we see the file. We're seeing the file, boys, ladies and gentlemen. We are in there. Got it. It opened the directory. Open Obsidian. Obsidian? I don't think I even have Obsidian installed. What are you talking about? Do I have to install something here? Yes. Obsidian is a free app you need to install on Windows. Here's how. Obsidian.md. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is one thing you need to do. Okay. You need to go to Obsidian.md. You need to get Obsidian for Windows. Then you download for Windows put it in your download folder, and we're gonna run that installation file that we just downloaded. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're about to open this up. So we're gonna click open next to open folder as Vault. We're going to navigate, loading Vault. Okay, Vault has been loaded. Oof, let's go, champ. Ayo. Hey, go back. What are you doing? Nice. We got this. We got this, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, this is so fun. Is this why people love this? Because they just like to. The hero section is connected with the projection map PIMs, with the navigation overhaul, with the index, with the logs, use map, landing nav. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. We were able to install Obsidian to get our graph view from our local machine that is not connected to the computer, really, from the project that we have been building using Claude Desktop as the architect, with Hermes Agent as the engineer, your boy one and only as the orchestrator. Let's go. This is how we do this. All right, ladies and gents, that's it for right now. Have an amazing day.